Greetings from the Washington, D.C. area of the United States of America. I'm Dr. Joel Snyder. My presentation is about audio description, making visual images accessible to people who are blind or have low vision. On the screen right now, I have a bunch of text. How does one make text accessible to someone who can't see or can't see it well? You read it aloud. So I'm going to practice what I preach. Audio Description Associates, LLC, the Visual Made Verbal, and the American Council of the Blind's Audio Description Project present Building It In, Audio Description at Every Performance, with Joel Snyder, PhD, President, Audio Description Associates, LLC, Founding Director Emeritus of the Audio Description Project of the American Council of the Blind. Accessible World, Accessible Canada, Montreal, Canada. And at the bottom of that screen, 4 words, American Audio Description Symbol. And there is an image there, a logo, a white square, within which are 2 letters in bold black type, an A and a D. The left side of that A is tilted just a bit to the right, and to the right of the curve in the D, 3 curved lines, period. Now, why do I say that? I say that because sometimes beginning describers will go on and add something like, oh, they represent sound waves. True enough. But there's nothing on the screen that says that for sighted people. Why would you add that information for someone who's blind? As though even a congenitally blind person doesn't grow up in the world and learn what curved lines might represent. No, at best it's unnecessary. At worst, it could even seem patronizing or condescending. We describe, we don't explain. We show, we don't tell. So there's a little bit about the audience, principal audience for audio description, and a little bit about audio description technique. In the 1990s, Access Theater and Rod Latham in Santa Barbara, California, pioneered a system whereby an audio described script is developed throughout the rehearsal process for a show in close consultation with the show's artistic staff, the director, designers, performers. The audio description then is available at any and all public performances on demand. Typically, recorded audio description, rarely done, is unavailable until well into the run of a show. And of course, a set recording for a live event is often technically and aesthetically infeasible. But with live audio description, the individual developing and voicing the audio description, often the same person, is a trained audio describer who benefits from the close association with the production staff. He or she is like a cast member, but not really. There's no need for the individual to be an equity member. And unlike a cast member, he or she need not attend every performance beyond the first half hour of the show, if no one has requested the audio description service. Generally, the audio describer is offered a set fee for the overall commitment, or with a longer run, a per show cost can be arranged. The script for the description is not recorded or even memorized, but relied upon loosely. Half an eye on the script, 1.5 eyes on the stage, if you will. It's a live performance. And so the delivery of the audio description sound is made via an infrared or FM system that's already available at most performing arts spaces. Further, as with Access Theater's award-winning production of Storm Reading, the audio description script can tour with the show and be available for use or adjustment by local trained audio describers. Here's a brief clip from the DVD of a live performance of Storm Reading, for which I wrote and voiced the audio description.
Yeah, me neither. You know, actually, life's been pretty quiet for me, too. Yeah, just doing my laundry. What are you doing?
Neil rises with small box, right leg extended.
Do you want some help?
Kicks Matt's laundry hamper.
I got you. I got you. Here we go.
Matt picks Neil up from behind, twirls with him in his arms, sits in Neil's chair, Neil in his lap. Matt jumps up, Neil resumes his seat, but Matt reaches for Neil's box, falling over him as Neil struggles to retain it. Matt gets the box.
I'm gonna help you whether you like it or not.
In Neil's face.
Generally, let me take a step back. Historically, in 1981, a formal
Yeah, me.
audio description service, the world's first, was begun under the leadership of a blind woman, Dr. Margaret Pfanstiel, at the Metropolitan Washington EAR, a radio reading service based in the Washington, D.C. area. Radio reading services still exist throughout the United States with the participation of volunteer readers. I began working as a volunteer reader at the EAR in 1972 and was proud to be a founding member of its audio description service. Now, radio reading services are heavily dependent on volunteers, and the EAR's audio description service was also structured around voluntary contributions of time and effort. Cognizant of the limits on the time of people who often maintain full-time employment elsewhere, audio description was conceived as a service that would be offered at only 2 performances of a theatrical run, and preparation for the audio described performances was based on observation of perhaps 2 or 3 performances early in the run. Even then, it was understood that optimally audio description would be prepared with more in-depth observation of the theatrical event, even during rehearsals, and that audio description should be offered at every performance in the run of a show. But the limitation of the volunteer structure prohibited that arrangement. The proliferation of audio description for live events in the United States and elsewhere was based on this volunteer, limited preview to described performances model. So the current practice of offering description at just the 1 or 2 performances in the run of a show was established over 40 years ago, and it has never represented equity, and in my humble opinion, really can no longer be tolerated. The belief, often stated by the founders of that first audio description service, noted earlier, was that the service must be offered to theaters for free or absolutely minimal expense. If not, the theaters simply won't offer the service. Well, my assertion is that accessibility is not an add-on. It is a requirement and a necessary cost of doing business, and really must be practiced by professionals who are every bit as committed to the success of every performance as every formal cast member. A brief story about access at every performance. In 1985, I made a trip to New York City to attend a performance by the company Theater by the Blind, TBTB. They're called Theater Breaking Through Barriers now. I was excited, a troupe of actors who are blind. Surely the company would use audio description. A company of blind actors would certainly want to be accessible for blind audience members. I was eager to sample their audio description work. Well, the group had no audio description as traditionally practiced. No audio description. Well, when I learned that, I was disappointed and ready to preach the gospel of audio description to these people. Instead, the group taught me an important lesson about accessibility and universal design. According to George Ashiotis, a blind man, one of TBTB founders and a professional actor, audio description was so important to the mission of TBTB that it must be a part of every performance of every show. Further, it needn't be this add-on. It should be an integral part of every script and a critical part of every director's concept. At TBTB, every production's planning and rehearsal process includes consideration of audio description right from the beginning. How can the audio description be integrated within the production? Will we add a narrator character that propels the action and also provides cleverly crafted description of visual elements? Perhaps the script can be modified to include descriptive elements spoken by the various characters. So in this way, the audio description becomes an inclusive process, a part of a universal design concept, helpful and aesthetically viable for all audiences. In the same way, theater that welcomes deaf audience members can be designed inclusively by employing shadow interpreters, a twin character or actor who signs and is paired with a speaking character or actor, or perhaps by displaying subtitles. And in the case of theater that is principally signed, voicers are added to use to match the sign with the spoken word or sung lines. I recently voiced the title character in a production of Julius Caesar at Gallaudet University, the world's first university for deaf students. Along the same lines, I had an opportunity to assist the Israeli company of deafblind actors, Nalagat, with the development of audio description for their productions. Now, for media, occasionally the same concept is used. Let me give you a wonderful example of the genius Stevie Wonder's music video of So What Da Fuss.
All right, here's how it's going down. Now, in an urban neighborhood, teens hang out on the front stoop of a 3-story brownstone. Inside, Stevie Wonder sits at a keyboard in the center of a spacious studio. A man grabs a bass guitar off the stand and 4 women cross the dark room. As a shadowy guitarist joins them, adults of all races and ages mingle in the hall and at the party. Stevie leans close to a gold-tipped microphone as he plays. A teen on the front steps turns his head sharply. At the party, women strut by smiling and a boy in the hall listens behind their event. Stevie's backup singers dance at their mic stands. It's en vogue. Our view floats up to a vent behind them and away from a vent at the party. A lounging guest leans towards it. Nearby, a man checks out a woman swaying hips as she passes. The guests clear the room of furniture and a man sprinkles fine powder on the hardwood floor. Stevie's fingers glide over the keys. At the party, a dancer drags his toe through the powder. The lounging guest bobs his head. As 2 gang kids fight near storefront TV sets, the screens show explosions. Now, in Stevie's studio, the bass guitar strings turn into vibrating wall pipes that lead to the party. On the dance floor, a twirling man's hat flies off. A woman in gold heels presses against her partner. As she leans back, he feels her bare stomach. So what the fuck? Now, Stevie plays a pearly white drum set. At the party, adults and children gather in the kitchen. Stevie's bass drum becomes the tire of a car outside. The teens out front help push the stalled car. Inside, a little girl touches her mother's face. Out front, a bearded man in a wheelchair wears African beads, and a white girl's hair gets braided into cornrows by her black friend. Now a man's hands on the counter become Stevie's hands. In a diner, the white owner points an Iranian away from the counter. At the party, a woman fans herself with a hat. In a hall, a drug dealer strides ominously past the boy at the vent. Now a fat woman's hip bumps a guy in the crotch as she dances. A woman nearby laughs. Our view floats down toward the party vent and away from the studio vent. Couples at the party caress each other as they dance. Shame on them. Shame on them. Shame on as En Vogue sways together, 2 kids dance battle on the sidewalk. Stevie's fingers slap the keys. The woman in gold heels wears brass knuckles on her necklace. Now our view passes through the ceiling of Stevie's studio to the party above. Loose floorboards shift underfoot. Out front, the teens dance energetically. Stevie rocks his shoulders as he plays his keyboard. As a fader on a mixboard slides down, it turns into a zipper on a woman's dress. A man eases the zipper open and reaches for his wedding ring. Now a toddler peeks into Stevie's studio. The toddler climbs onto the drum set stool. As Stevie sings into his mic, the little boy bangs drumsticks on the snare. The boy slips off the stool. A female dancer does the splits through a partner's legs. In bed, a woman dips her fingers in a jar of skin cream and rubs it over her bare leg. Now the toddler taps on the drum standing up. As a car outside rocks back and forth, a drink in a party glass wavers. The little girl's mother dances with her daughter standing on her shoes. Images of sweaty people dancing and smiling throughout the building flash rapidly. The boy in the hall honks a bicycle horn. The girl in braids hugs her friends. Now 2 men in plain clothes chase the drug dealer. The bearded man in a wheelchair smiles victoriously to the sky. The woman in bed kisses her partner. As the lights flicker at the party and in the studio, men lead the dealer away from the building in handcuffs. The singers and party guests continue dancing, and Stevie and the band continues doing what they do best, and it's making that feel-good music.
So let's fast forward to 2014, with the support of the DC Aid Association for the Blind, the Audio Description Project of the American Council of the Blind proposed a more expansive audio description arrangement for 2 productions at Arena Stage in Washington, D.C. We collaborated with Arena on an experiment. An audio describer attended rehearsals for each production, met with the stage director, the actors, the designers of the scenic set, the costumes, the lighting, the sound, and developed that audio description script throughout a 3-week rehearsal period. The script was then available for that same describer to voice at every performance, beginning with opening night, and with, of course, an eye on stage action as changes might occur from performance to performance. The describer essentially was a cast member attending every rehearsal and performance. This arrangement had 2 benefits over the traditional model of audio description development for live performance. Number 1, time was available to carefully observe the theatrical process and construct descriptive language that was more thorough and considered. And number 2, people desiring the service could attend any performance with no advance notice and be assured of access to the visual aspects of the production. Other innovations included Braille, large print programs, models of the set and props in the lobby, and even a tactile scrapbook of costume pieces. It was really quite gratifying to note that attendance for the production by people using audio description tripled over levels experienced at Arena using the traditional volunteer method. So with that, let me share with you my contact information. My company is my name is Joel Snyder, PhD, Audio Description Associates, LLC. My email is jsnyder@audiodescribe.com, and my website, www.audiodescribe.com. I can be reached at 301-920-0218. And the website of the Audio Description Project of the American Council of the Blind, a great resource, https://adp.acb.org. And one of our initiatives is training in audio description. Our next Audio Description Institute, our 24th, will be held virtually from September 9 through 13, 2024. Hope you'll join us. Bye-bye.